Hi, this is Alex at Ithaca Cybersecurity. On this week's edition of Profit Insights, we're talking about the ancient art of setting limits, a Stoic approach to modern achievement. It contains one of my all-time favorite quotes from Seneca. And without further ado, my recent column, How to Achieve More with Less, examined the practical applications of the Pareto principle and Parkinson's law. This week, we'll take Pareto's 80-20 rule one step further by exploring a principle first introduced to me in the letters of Lucius Annaeus Seneca, and one that offers timeless wisdom for the ambitious reader. If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich. And that's again a quote from Seneca. So Seneca the Stoic attributes this maxim to the skeptic philosopher Epicurus in one of his 124 surviving letters to his friend Lucilius. In this correspondence, Seneca warns about unnatural desires that have no limits, particularly those arising from others' opinions. According to Seneca, natural desires will always be bounded, and this is my absolute all-time favorite. When you are traveling on a road, there must be an end, but when astray, your wanderings are limitless. Recall your steps, therefore, from idle things, and when you would know whether that which you seek is based upon natural or misleading desire, consider whether it can stop at any definite point. So Seneca here is essentially saying everything must have a definitive endpoint. And if it doesn't have a definitive endpoint, if it's infinite, or if it's the contemporary analogy we often use is the rat race or running around in a hamster wheel, then it's probably what Seneca would describe an unnatural desire. So this ancient wisdom aligns remarkably well with modern business practices. So we are obviously often asked, especially as my background and my training in sales, we're asked to set SMART objectives. So SMART meaning specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and the T is the time-bound aspect. And Stoic philosophy suggests that the T for time-bound should be followed by a very, very definitive full stop. So without clear endpoints, as I say, our ambitions become wandering journeys with no destination. But of course, juxtaposed against this observation that greed and laziness can so often fuel the innovation that drives progress. So perhaps a sage would be greedy and lazy, but wise enough to set limits to both inclinations. The power of no. And Seneca understood that setting effective limits and boundaries is a vital skill for maximizing effectiveness. So almost 2,000 years later, this principle, of course, well, it was always relevant, but it's never been more relevant. Stoic philosophy champions ignoring the majority of external factors over which we have very, very little influence and focusing instead on the variables within our control. So saying no, as I'm sure we all know, isn't actually as easy as it sounds, but it's essential for improving efficacy. And that means declining things that have a negative or negligible impact on our aims and our overall happiness. So my personal no bucket includes checking email more than once a day, consuming news outside of my zone of influence. I'm drinking again, but when I wrote this column, it said alcohol this week, at least in brackets, and time spent with people who don't share my values. That is that's a key one, actually. So each no creates space for a more meaningful yes to activities that genuinely matter. And there is a certain presence that you can bring through limitation. So the mental clarity that emerges from setting limits on our ambition and desires can significantly benefit, of course, our happiness and our relationships by honing our ability to sit and enjoy the present moments. We quiet what the Stoics call our reasoning faculty. So that's the part of us that looks forward, but often with apprehension. And the Stoics also go on to dissect what they call, as I say, the reasoning faculty as something that will be moving us away from beasts. So it defines us from the animal kingdom, and it's quite a good concept actually to get your head around. Instead, being present allows us to find peace and beauty, even the most mundane aspects of daily life. This practice, of course, is not unique to Stoicism. It forms a unifying thread among major world religions, where practice often involves prayer, meditation, and reflection. Every major world religion has that certain aspect to it. Stoicism, of course, fairly agnostic on that side. So fixed destinations versus self-limiting beliefs. Now, there is a key difference I wanted to highlight here. So my interpretation of Seneca's advice has helped me set and understand my own longer-term objectives relating to wealth, investment, family, and legacy. And I'm confident in my ability to achieve these objectives precisely because I've defined very, very fixed endpoints for my ambition. And that sounds a little bit, well, of course, limiting, and of course it is, but it's essential to distinguish between setting a fixed destination and holding self-limiting beliefs, which are actually, of course, holding you back. So setting a destination in accordance with nature, as Seneca advocates, places control internally. We set limits based on what we believe we can actually achieve by influencing the factors that are within our control. So in contrast, the self-limiting beliefs arise from comparing ourselves with others. So this places the lever of control very much outside of our grasp. So you can consider this statement. A BMW M3 is the best car ordinary working people like you and I can hope to attain. Now, this assumes an artificial boundary between a them and an us, suggesting that working people face externally imposed achievement limits based on their identity of being a working person. So when in reality, the limitation is that statement, it comes from within. So finding consistency, if you'd like to learn more, if you'd like to learn how to spot more opportunities where others seek adversity, and to be honest, if you are 7 minutes into this recording, then maybe I've got your interest, then I urge you to revisit Epicurus's maxim that open the piece and reflect on your own long-term objectives. And I'll close with a final gift of wisdom from Seneca. But before I do that, why don't I do what I said, and I will revisit that maxim from Epicurus. So if you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you'll never be rich. And from Seneca, hasten to find me, but hasten to find yourself first. Make progress, and before all else, endeavor to be consistent with yourself. Consider whether you desire the same things today that you desired yesterday. A shifting of the will indicates a mind at sea, heading in various directions according to the course of the wind, but that which is settled and solid does not wander from its place. In setting limits, we do not find constraint but freedom, the freedom to focus deeply, achieve meaningfully, and live consistently inside our true nature.